Blessed is he who reads aloud the words of the prophecy, and blessed are those who hear and who keep what is written therein, for the time is near. Revelation 1:3. So let's dive in and trust the Lord that he will give you wisdom and understanding as we go verse by verse through the book of Revelation. Always remember Acts 17:11, in that they received the word with all readiness of mind and searched the scriptures daily whether these things were so.
Revelation chapter 18. The Fall of Babylon. Revelation 18 verse 1. After these things I saw another angel coming down from heaven, having great authority, and the earth was illumined with his glory. Revelation 18 verse 2. And he cried out with a mighty voice, saying, Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. She has become a dwelling place of demons, and a prison of every unclean spirit, and a prison of every unclean and hateful bird. Revelation 18 verse 3. For all the nations have drunk of the wine of the passion of her immorality, and the kings of the earth have committed acts of immorality with her, and the merchants of the earth have become rich by the wealth of her sensuality. Announcement of the glorious angel, illuminated with his glory. So recently has he come from the presence of God that in passing he flings a broad belt of light across the dark earth. He announces that Babylon is fallen, fallen. The phrase is repeated like a solemn dirge of the damned. The city has become a habitation of demons. This is a prophetic picture of absolute desolation, where the proud achievements of man become the demonic haunts of unclean and horrible creatures. Abundance of her luxury. Babylon's sin is not only idolatry, but also pride, greed, and excessive wealth. So this whole satanic system that seems to be centered now in this time in this city of Babylon, which has become the commercial center of the world banking and all of the commercial interests now become centered in Babylon. Now, what city this is or where this city is to be located is a matter of speculation. There are many Bible scholars who believe that the ancient city of Babylon will be chosen by the Antichrist for his capital and will be rebuilt at a tremendous expense as they put it up in a hurry. There are indications that this city will be built quite rapidly. Craftsmen from all over the world will be paid premium wages, and thousands will descend upon this area with unlimited funds to build this awesome, wonderful city that shall be the center of world banking and world commerce. Now we are told in the book of Daniel that when the Antichrist establishes his reign, that the craftsmen will prosper in his reign. In other words, he will inaugurate vast building programs that will necessitate the use of hundreds of thousands of laboring men. And thus, people will be able to get jobs at tremendously high wages, premium wages, and they will prosper exceedingly under his reign. That is quite possible that the city of Babylon described here does not yet exist, but will be built by the Antichrist for his capital and for the commercial center of the world. And as they bring the goods by ship and all into this city, there will be a time of tremendous economic prosperity. Why do we see Babylon again in chapter 18 after seeing her destroyed in chapter 17? Because chapter 17 deals with the false religious system Babylon represents, while chapter 18 deals with the literal city of Babylon. Chapter 17 deals with religious Babylon. Chapter 18 deals with political and economic Babylon. Revelation 18 verse 4. I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, so that you will not participate in her sins and receive of her plagues. Revelation 18 verse 5. For her sins have piled up as high as heaven, and God has remembered her iniquities. A call to God's people to separate from Babylon. It is inconceivable that a child of God could be part of a religious Babylon, though elements may creep in. But commercial Babylon, with its materialistic lure, is a constant threat. The warning is focused towards saints who are in the position Lot was while living in Sodom. These are God's people in a place they shouldn't be, a place ripe for destruction. The call to depart from Babylon and the worldliness that it represents is a theme repeated frequently in the Scriptures. Depart, depart, go out from there. Touch no unclean thing. Go out from her. Be clean, you who bear the vessels of the Lord. Isaiah 52, verse 11. Flee from the midst of Babylon, and everyone save his life. Jeremiah 50, verse 8. My people, go out of the midst of her, and let everyone deliver himself from the fierce anger of the Lord. Jeremiah 51, verse 45. Do not be unequally yoked together with unbelievers, for what fellowship has righteousness with lawlessness? 2 Corinthians 6, verse 14. And have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them. Ephesians 5, verse 11. Their sins have reached to heaven. They have piled up like a tower, the Tower of Babel. God will remember her iniquities, but for believers, he says, I will remember their sins no more. Hebrews 8, verse 12. The voice from heaven speaks to those who become believers during the tribulation. The church is already in heaven, but the Lord will still save souls. So many that in the tribulation there will be a large number of people who finally understand the gospel message and are converted to Christ. To them, this clarion call comes from heaven, saying, Stay away from Babylon. Revelation 18, verse 6. Pay her back, even as she has paid, and give back to her double according to her deeds. In the cup which she has mixed, mix twice as much for her. Revelation 18, verse 7. To the degree that she glorified herself and lived sensuously, to the same degree give her torment and mourning. For she says in her heart, I sit as a queen, and I am not a widow, and will never see mourning. Revelation 18, verse 8. For this reason, in one day her plagues will come, pestilence and mourning and famine, and she will be burned up with fire, for the Lord God who judges her is strong. A call to those who will carry out Babylon's judgment. Judgment, or apodidomai, is literally to pay a debt or to give back that which is due. God will give to commercial Babylon exactly what she deserves. Repay her double according to her works. Mix for her double. Double restitution was a requirement of Levitical law in cases of theft. This, perhaps, is a commentary on how Babylon has made her wealth, through dishonest dealings. Verse 7 presents a threefold sin. Self-indulgence, lived luxuriously. Pride, glorified herself, sits as a queen. And avoidance of suffering, am no widow and will not see sorrow. All these things are characteristic of worldliness and materialism. In one day, the destruction of commercial Babylon will come suddenly and with completeness, utterly burned with fire. In other words, Babylon is about to receive twice the wrath and destruction ever perpetrated by her. Revelation 18, verse 9. And the kings of the earth, who committed acts of immorality and lived sensuously with her, will weep and lament over her when they see the smoke of her burning. Revelation 18, verse 10. Standing at a distance because of the fear of her torment, saying, Woe, woe, the great city, Babylon, the strong city, for in 1 hour your judgment has come. Lament for commercial Babylon. Lament of the kings. So great is the heat and smoke of her burning that these kings must stand at a distance. Many have thought that this may be an indication that nuclear weapons are used in the judgment of these commercial centers. With a touch of grim humor, he paints them as standing at a safe distance from the destructive fire and contenting themselves with idle lamentations. It sounds like it's destroyed by a nuclear blast of some kind, and there's heavy radiation, which causes them to fear to approach the city. In each case, they are standing afar off, and they are afraid to approach it, which does sound a lot like radioactivity around the destruction of this city. The fact that it is destroyed in just a moment's time, again sounds like a detonation of a nuclear device with heavy radiation following. Revelation 18, verse 11. And the merchants of the earth weep and mourn over her, because no one buys their cargoes anymore. Revelation 18, verse 12. Cargoes of gold and silver and precious stones, and pearls and fine linen, and purple and silk and scarlet, and every kind of citron wood, and every article of ivory, and every article made from very costly wood and bronze and iron and marble. Revelation 18, verse 13. And cinnamon and spice and incense and perfume and frankincense and wine and olive oil and fine flour and wheat and cattle and sheep and cargoes of horses and chariots and slaves and human lives. Revelation 18, verse 14. The fruit you long for has gone from you, and all things that were luxurious and splendid have passed away from you, and men will no longer find them. Revelation 18, verse 15. The merchants of these things, who became rich from her, will stand at a distance because of the fear of her torment, weeping and mourning. Revelation 18, verse 16, saying, Woe, woe, the great city, she who was clothed in fine linen and purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls. Revelation 18, verse 17. For in 1 hour such great wealth has been laid waste, and every shipmaster, and every passenger and sailor, and as many as make their living by the sea, stood at a distance. Lament of the merchants. This long list needs little explanation, except to note that these are all luxuries, not necessities, and it is plain that the mourning is rooted in self-interest, for no one buys their merchandise anymore. The combined picture is one of complete abandonment to the wealth of this world and complete disregard of God who gave it. The prophets of commercial Babylon have come through cruelly using others. They sold the bodies and souls of men. This idea has many applications, none less so than today's widespread prostitution and pornography. Those who lived for the luxuries of commercial Babylon will be tormented by hell all the more. You shall find them no more at all. Ultimately, hell will be a place of unfulfilled desire. Revelation 18, verse 18. And were crying out as they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What city is like the great city? Revelation 18, verse 19. And they threw dust on their heads and were crying out, weeping and mourning, saying, Woe, woe, the great city, in which all who had ships at sea became rich by her wealth, for in 1 hour she has been laid waste. Lament of the sea captains. Again, little comment needs to be made on this, other than to notice that their sorrow at commercial Babylon's fall is selfish. All of the wealth that was brought in to build this city, all of the wealth that was centered in this city, now destroyed, and the world is weeping. The kings and the merchant men who brought in the ships bringing the goods and the valuable costly items, all weeping as they see her destruction. In heaven, there's a different scene. Revelation 18, verse 20. Rejoice over her, O heaven, and you saints and apostles and prophets, because God has pronounced judgment for you against her. Call to the heavens and the people of God. Rejoice. Rejoice? Yes, but not at judgment, but at justice and a righteous resolution. Revelation 18, verse 21. Then a strong angel took up a stone like a great millstone and threw it into the sea, saying, So will Babylon, the great city, be thrown down with violence, and will not be found any longer. Finale. Commercial Babylon's death knell. An angel graphically shows Babylon's fall. This is reminiscent of Jeremiah's instructions to Sariah to bind a stone to a text of Jeremiah and cast it into the Euphrates. Thus shall Babylon sink, and shall not rise from the evil that I will bring upon her, and they shall be weary. Rejoice, someday this world system will pass away, like a great stone falls to the bottom of the sea. We will only be harmed by this fall to the extent that we have invested ourselves into the mentality of commercial Babylon's materialism and worldliness. Revelation 18, verse 22. And the sound of harpists and musicians and flute players and trumpeters will not be heard in you any longer, and no craftsman of any craft will be found in you any longer, and the sound of a mill will not be heard in you any longer. Revelation 18, verse 23. And the light of a lamp will not shine in you any longer, and the voice of the bridegroom and bride will not be heard in you any longer. For your merchants were the great men of the earth, because all the nations were deceived by your sorcery. Babylon is left desolate and powerless. The industry and commerce of Babylon has come to an end. Sorcery is the Greek word pharmakia, which means to prepare drugs. The lure of commercial Babylon is like a drug addiction, fed by deceptive advertising. Revelation 18, verse 24. And in her was found the blood of the prophets and of saints and of all who have been slain on the earth. The ultimate reason for commercial Babylon's judgment? She has killed the prophets and saints. The extent of the accusation is an indication that this great city is symbolic of the world system at large. There is no one literal city that is responsible for all who were slain on the earth. God takes the persecution of his people as a personal offense. Those who attack his people attack him.